Tonight, this is the first episode from information taken from the Institute for the Study of War. This evening, as you go to lay down and relax, as you relax, we're going to begin with my voice, and we're going to start off with Russian force generation and technological adaptations. And the most recent update was from October the 9th, 2025. So we're going to start off with here some key takeaways. Number 1. Resussian forces have been increasingly targeting Ukrainian logistical routes and positions in the near rear using mothership unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as UAVs, particularly motherships based on variants of the WRLD and Millennia fixed-wing drones since at least August 2025. 2. Russian developers are integrating fiber optic cables into cheaper drones to scale Russian forces' ability to conduct drone strikes at farther ranges. Number 3. Russian forces are trying to scale to the production of fiber optic UAVs to increasingly intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber drones. 4. Russian developers reportedly introduced fiber optic FPV UAVs that can function as repeater drones for other strike and reconnaissance UAVs, extending Russian tactical drone ranges to up to 60 kilometers. 5. Russian forces are pursuing moving targets in the near rear with Shahed and Gerba UAVs with integrated cameras and radio control capabilities. And 6. Russian developers are fielding new countermeasures against Ukrainian drone interceptors, chiefly via newly integrated radio detectors. So now as you lay there and you relax, my hope is that you can digest some technical information, which oftentimes can be boring for people. So, we are now going to convert to an AI-generated voice, and we're going to get into the details from those 5 key takeaways. And if you end up enjoying this content, please hit that like button and subscribe to WRLD Conflict Zone. And again, welcome to the first edition of Conflict Zone Technical Briefs for Sleep.
Russian forces have been increasingly targeting Ukrainian logistics routes and positions in the near rear using mothership unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, particularly motherships based on variants of the Orlan and Molnia fixed-wing drones, since at least August 2025. Ukrainian forces reported on August 22 that they shot down a Russian Orlan reconnaissance UAV that functioned as a mothership and carried 2 first-person view UAVs for the first time. 1. A source in the Russian Defense Industrial Base, DIB, later told Kremlin newswire TASS on September 8 that Russian forces are using Orlan-10 UAVs for transporting loitering munitions and that the new use of Orlan mothership carrier drones allows Russia to significantly increase the range of Russian drone strikes in the near rear. 2. One Russian mill blogger claimed that Russian forces struck Zaporizhia city with UAVs twice as of September 4 and credited Russia's capability to strike at an extended range to mothership drones that operate using Ukrainian SIM cards. 3. Ukrainian and Russian sources indicated in late September 2025 that Russian forces began actively using cheaply made MOLNIYA-2 fixed-wing first-person view FPV drones as mothership UAVs to extend tactical drone ranges beyond 25 kilometers in the Kupiansk, Lyman, Pokrovsk, and Novopavlovka directions. 4. Ukrainian servicemen reported that Russian forces have been using Molniya mothership UAVs as repeater drones for other strike and reconnaissance drones and to interdict Ukrainian ground lines of communication, GLOCs, as these drones allow Russian forces to target Ukrainian logistics up to 20 to 25 kilometers from the front line. 5. Another Russian blogger observed Ukraine's widespread use of mothership drones that are based on heavy multicopters that simultaneously act as repeater UAVs. 6. Russian developers are trying to expand the ways to control mothership UAVs to improve Russian forces' ability to strike Ukrainian targets deeper in the near rear and rear. The Russian company KB Valkyria reportedly presented the Road 8 mothership UAV, which reportedly uses radio channels, Starlink, or mobile networks up to a range of 150 kilometers. 7. The Road 8 mothership UAV can carry 2 FPV drones, each with a 3-kilogram warhead and day and night cameras. KB Valkyria also reportedly manufactures the Road 7, Road 10, and Road 12 variants of the UAV, with Road 12 being the largest in the lineup. KB Valkyria advertised their RD-class UAVs as multi-purpose platforms that can be used as a reconnaissance, mothership, or repeater UAVs, a likely response to the growing need of versatile drone platforms that are necessary to overcome the expanding denial area and kill zone, an area immediately near the front line where a mass of tactical strike and reconnaissance drones pose an elevated risk to any equipment or personnel that enters the area. KB Valkyria reportedly designed the Road 8 UAV's functions to support clearing enemy positions ahead of further FPV UAV drone attacks. The chief designer and deputy general director of Russia's State United Aircraft Corporation, UAC, Sergei Korotkov, told TASS on September 7 that the UAC is pursuing several projects to develop attack drones that can be launched from air-based platforms. 8. Russian forces are trying to alleviate manpower and training requirements by reportedly developing artificial intelligence, AI, capabilities for drone swarms. A source in the Russian DIB told TASS on August 31 that Russian forces had combat-tested new AI-based technology that allows Russian drone operators to control several FPV UAVs at once. 9. The source claimed that AI allows Russian drone operators to switch control between drones while they fly in cruise control mode to conserve battery. The source claimed that drone swarms could allow Russian forces to increase firepower on the battlefield and argued that AI capabilities will shorten drone operator training by 1 to 2 months. Russian developers are integrating fiber optic cables into cheaper drones to scale Russian forces' ability to conduct drone strikes at farther ranges. Russian sources published footage on September 13 and 14 showing Russian MOLNIYA-2 UAVs with fiber optic cables striking claimed Ukrainian targets in the Kherson direction for the first time, indicating that Russian forces have begun to attach the cable to cheaply made Molniya UAVs, likely to significantly scale the number of fiber optic UAVs on the battlefield. 10. Ukrainian servicemen have observed Russian forces using Molniya drones with fiber optic cables, at least in the Lyman direction, as of late September 2025. 11. One Russian blogger claimed that the MOLNIYA-2 UAVs with fiber optic cables have a range of up to 20 kilometers, while another claimed that Russian developers were able to attach a 40-kilometer fiber optic cable onto MOLNIYA-2 UAV, making the UAV invulnerable to EU and having a high-quality video feed. 12. Ukrainian electronic and radio warfare expert Serhiy Flash Veskresnov observed on September 13 that Russian forces were finishing testing of Molniya UAVs with fiber optic cables, but noted that adding the cable would decrease the UAV's warhead size and range. 13. Veskresnov added that such an adaptation will allow Russia to strike Ukrainian targets in the kill zone and along the international border up to a 20-kilometer distance. Russian developers recently modified some Molniya UAV variants to operate as motherships and have thermobaric warheads. 14. A Ukrainian brigade operating in the Kharkiv direction observed that Russian forces still largely rely on radio-controlled FPV UAVs as opposed to fiber optic UAVs due to a lack of trained drone operators. 15. Russian forces are trying to scale the production of fiber optic UAVs to increasingly intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber drones. A Russian blogger claimed that Russian forces have been using fiber optic drones such as Up-Ear UAVs to intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber drones, which have EU capabilities to jam Russian drone interceptors. 16. The blogger added that Up-Ear drones have a range of over 30 kilometers that allows them to isolate parts of the front line and stretch out Ukrainian GLOCs by 20 kilometers. Russian bloggers particularly attributed Ukrainian heavy bomber drone and multi-copter losses to the Rubicon Center for Advanced Unmanned Technologies. 17. Another mill blogger, however, complained that Russian forces do not have enough fiber optic drones to intercept Ukrainian heavy bomber UAVs, and it is likely that Russian developers are integrating fiber optic cables onto cheap Molnia drones to overcome these shortages. 18. Russian DIB is rapidly trying to address fiber optic UAV shortages, with the Kremlin's People's Front movement claiming in early September 2025 that Russia delivered 1,000 Veturek fiber optic UAVs of different modifications to the battlefield. 19. Veturek fiber optic UAVs reportedly have a 30-kilometer range and can carry 7 kilograms. 20. Russian developers reportedly introduced fiber optic FPV UAVs that can function as repeater drones for other strike and reconnaissance UAVs, extending Russian tactical drone ranges to up to 60 kilometers. A Kremlin-affiliated mill blogger claimed that Russian developers created repeater drones with a fiber optic cable that could enable Russian forces to quadruple the range of frontline drones. 21. The mill blogger explained that the new fiber optic repeater UAVs boost the signal to the attached FPV fiber optic strike UAV. The fiber optic cable controls reportedly allow Russian drone operators to bypass EU systems and operate at a range of up to 50 to 60 kilometers. The mill blogger added that the fiber optic repeater drone can adjust the tension of the cable to avoid the cable snagging on the ground, and noted that Russian forces can connect multiple attack drones to the repeater drone. The mill blogger noted that Russian forces are increasingly using mid-range drones to target Ukrainian GLOCs, but warned that Ukrainian forces are adopting similar measures. Russian forces are increasingly employing various other repeaters to extend drone ranges in Ukraine. The Smolensk Oblast-based drone force company claimed to TASS that a Russian FIRS FPV UAV struck a Ukrainian target at a record distance of 38 kilometers after receiving support from a signal repeater. 22. The Russian Veter Design Bureau presented the Veter X FPV UAV that can strike targets at a range of over 30 kilometers by operating in conjunction with an airborne repeater, and claimed that Russian forces can control the drone via radio frequency or fiber optic cable. 23. Veskresnov observed that many Russian drone operators operate drones via repeaters and that the use of repeaters has increased steadily over the past 6 months. 24. A former Russian Storm Z trainer and mill blogger credited improvements in the effectiveness of Russian tactical reconnaissance strike complexes to the widespread use of repeaters linked to integrated drone control support networks. 25. The mill blogger complained, however, that the Russian military command has not provided Russian military units with sufficient repeaters. Russian forces are trying to control unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, via fiber optic cables, likely in an effort to undermine successful Ukrainian USV operations in the Black Sea and threaten Ukrainian coastal cities. Russian VOIN, Warrior, Military Patriotic Training Center instructors reportedly trained with Irtish USVs, which reportedly have fiber optic cable and Hermes communication system controls, in late August 2025. 26. A Kremlin-affiliated mill blogger claimed on September 8 that the Novgorod Research and Production Center, also known as Ushkunik, developed a USV with fiber optic communications, and that the Black Sea Fleet would test the USV in September 2025. 27. The mill blogger claimed that the USV can function as a strike drone, USV interceptor, or as a FPV drone carrier and launch platform. The mill blogger added that the USV serves as a repeater to other radio-controlled FPV drones, and that the fiber optic cable is heavy and sinks to the seafloor, which prevents it from breaking. Ukrainian military outlet Defense Express assessed that it is unlikely that Russian UAVs will use fiber optic cables exceeding 100 kilometers, but warned that such USV carriers could bring Russian FPV UAVs in range of Odessa, Mykolaiv, and Kherson cities if the USV carriers launch from the occupied Kinburn Spit. 28. The Russian military command is likely trying to catch up to Ukraine's successful integration of USVs in combat operations, and reportedly provided Rubicon elements with USVs in summer 2025. 29. The Russian Ministry of Defense, MOD, claimed on August 28 that Russian USVs attacked a Ukrainian reconnaissance ship in the mouth of the Danube River for the first time. 30. Russian developers continue to test and present other USVs like the Bek R 5-meter-long USV, which Russian manufacturers reportedly plan to equip with machine vision capabilities. 31. Russia is still trying to overcome the lack of stable satellite internet connection to control UAVs. Russian state media reported in late August 2025 that Russian developers tested a new UAV that flew by transmitting a signal via the Gazprom-owned Yamal 601 satellite in geostationary orbit. 32. Veskresnov explained that Russia does not have a network of low-orbit modern satellites for high-speed internet access, instead relying on the Yamal-601 satellite that only partly covers Ukraine and has a delayed signal due to the far distance of the geostationary orbit. 33. Veskresnov observed that Russian efforts to operate unmanned systems via the Yamal-601 satellite signal remain vulnerable to signal delays and to any physical obstacles between the Russian satellite and receiver terminals. Russian developers claim to have decreased the signal delay, but Veskresnov noted that antennas that facilitate the connection to the satellite are too heavy and large for UAVs to carry. Veskresnov warned, however, that Russian forces may try to integrate these antennas on Russian USVs because of USVs' larger size and capability to carry more weight. Veskresnov stated that such antennas are not new technology, but expressed doubt that the antenna will be able to maintain a stable signal when attached to a small USV rocking while at sea. Russian developers may be integrating fiber optic cables into USVs to address the lack of a stable satellite internet connection to operate drones. 34. Russian forces are pursuing moving targets in the near rear with Shahed, Gerin, and Gerbera UAVs with integrated cameras and radio control capabilities. Russian sources published footage on October 1 reportedly showing Russian forces striking a moving Ukrainian locomotive with an MS variant of Shahed UAV in Bobrovitsa, Chernihiv Oblast. 35. A Kremlin-affiliated millblogger claimed that the MS variant is equipped with a thermal imaging camera and a video stream, which allows Russian drone operators to pursue moving targets in real time via radio control. 36. The millblogger added that Russian drone operators are prioritizing striking trains, traction substations, and locomotives in Chernihiv and Sumy oblasts with MS Shaheds. 37. Russian millbloggers also claimed that Russian forces struck Ukrainian energy infrastructure and conducted a fly of Kyiv city with MS Shaheds. 38. Russian forces likely started fielding MS Shaheds in June 2025 by adapting Iranian and Chinese-controlled reception pattern antennas, CRPA, AI components, cameras and thermal imagers, and radio modems. 39. Veskresnov assessed on October 1 that Russia's use of Shahed variants with online controls remains limited and not as dynamic, that these variants have a range of up to 200 kilometers, and that UAV controls rely on Chinese cameras and radio modems. 40. Veskresnov assessed that Russian forces are unlikely to use Shahed variants to strike individual military vehicles and will likely target railways, groupage transport, and heavy equipment. Russian forces also installed cameras and radio modems onto Gerbera UAVs, likely in an effort to identify Ukrainian interceptor drones and improve Russian drone reconnaissance capabilities at a lower cost. Ukrainian forces also intercepted a Gerbera reconnaissance drone equipped with 2 visual detection cameras for interceptor UAVs. 41. Ukrainian defense outlet Militarny reported that Russian forces began using modified Gerbera drones in fall 2024, but did not scale the use of such modifications until recently. 42. A Ukrainian detachment commander noted that Russian forces have been increasingly using modified Gerberas as reconnaissance UAVs in the Pokrovsk direction because these UAVs are cheaper to procure than Orlan, Zala, and Supercam reconnaissance UAVs. 43. Russian forces are remotely mining Ukrainian positions and logistics routes deeper in the rear using Shahed, Gerin, UAVs. Kherson Oblast Military Administration warned on August 28 that Russian forces began using Shaheds to remotely mine roads and areas in the near rear with anti-vehicle mines. 44. Kherson Oblast Military Administration noted that the anti-vehicle mines automatically detonate after 16 to 24 hours. Ukrainian sources later reported on September 21 that Russian forces likely dropped Lepestok PFM-1 anti-personnel mines from unspecified drones, likely Shahed or Gerbera UAV, over Nizhin, Chernihiv Oblast. 45. Russian millbloggers published footage in August and September 2025, reportedly showing Russian forces using Shahed UAVs with PTM-3 anti-tank mines in Ukraine. 46. Ukrainian aviation expert Valery Romanenko observed on August 22 that Russian forces started to attach anti-tank mines to Shahed drones with fasteners for sewer pipes and noted that such adaptations are primitive but effective. 47. Romanenko assessed that Russian forces aim to use Shahed remote mining capabilities to interdict certain roads in the near rear, particularly dirt roads. Romanenko assessed that Russian forces are unlikely to scale the remote mining campaign using Shaheds because Russian drone operators will need to fly these UAVs no further than 100 to 120 kilometers from the front line to maintain visibility and fly at low altitudes to target logistics routes. Romanenko added that Shahed drones are expensive and that Russian forces can only achieve some effects when using Shahed remote mining capabilities in urban environments with many active targets. Russian developers are fielding new countermeasures against Ukrainian drone interceptors, chiefly via newly integrated radio detectors. Veskresnov observed in early September 2025 that Russian developers installed signal receivers into most Supercam fixed-wing UAVs, which detect strong radio signals from Ukrainian drone interceptors. 48. The receiver automatically alerts the Russian drone to evade the interceptor and jams the drone interceptor's video signal. 49. Deputy General Director of the Russian Machine Vision Systems Company, Dmitry Sadovnik, similarly announced on September 25 that the company started producing interceptor detectors operating at a new 7.2 GHz frequency. 50. Ukrainian forces observed Russian forces installing radio detectors for automatic evasion of Ukrainian drones in fall 2024, and that Russian developers began equipping Zala drones with similar detectors in October 2024. 51. Veskresnov later observed in March 2025 that Russian developers began installing additional cameras on reconnaissance UAVs to detect and evade Ukrainian interceptors. 52. Russian developers continued to test kinetic drone countermeasures in an effort to undermine the Ukrainian tactical drone wall along the front line, but are unlikely to have fully developed effective kinetic countermeasures at this time. Russian Novi Ruskiye Technology, New Russian Technologies, project developers claimed on October 2 that they tested a new Izdali 545 kinetic drone countermeasure and that the new system can destroy drones of all variants within a 100 to 150 meter radius. 53. Former Russian space agency Roscosmos head and Zaporizhia Oblast occupation Senator Dmitry Rogozin responded to the developers' claim, stating that it was great but confusing, and that Russian developers should test these countermeasures on the battlefield before making such announcements. 54. The former Storm Z instructor and millblogger observed that Russian forces have not developed significant drone interception capabilities and low-altitude air defense systems to decisively counter Ukrainian drones. 55.
So, if you are still awake, we're going to now move on to the next section. So here's some key takeaways with the Ukraine and Russia conflict as of October 26. Number 1, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russia Chief of General Staff and the Army General continue to make exaggerated claims of battlefield victories while demonstrating that the Kremlin remains committed to seizing the entirety of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson oblasts. Number 2. Russian millbloggers widely denied Gerasimov's claims. Number 3. The Kremlin is exploiting Russia's recent reliance on infiltration missions and the absence of continuous front lines in some tactical areas, and the resulting interspersal of forces to make exaggerated battlefield claims. 4. Putin attempted to justify Russia's slow pace of advance because of Russian concern for civilian safety and casualties. 5. Russia continues to issue explicit nuclear threats as part of a multi-pronged effort seeking to deter continued U.S. pressure on Russia and its continued support for Ukraine. 6. Russian Direct Investment Fund, also known as RDIF, CEO and key Kremlin negotiator Dmitriev stated outright that Russia has not deviated from its 2021-2022 original war aims, and that Russia continues to seek control of all of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson oblasts. 7. The Russian economy is showing its first signs of stagnation in manufacturing sectors critical to the Russian defense industrial base, also known as the DIB. 8. Russian regional authorities continue reducing one-time recruitment payments, supporting the forecast that Russia may begin compulsory recruitment of reservists in the face of mounting economic strain. 9. Russian forces continue to launch long-range glide bomb strikes against Ukrainian cities. 10. European officials continue to report on Russian hybrid operations in Europe over the past several years. 11. Ukrainian forces recently advanced in several areas. Russian forces recently advanced near Lyman, Seversk, and in an area that I cannot properly pronounce. And these are all tactical areas. And if you're enjoying this latest update, hit the like button. And my hope is by now you feel updated. You're more sleepy than what you were. Man, I know what it's like to be just dead to the world, and yet you lay there and you're listening and you're not sure why you haven't fallen into the wonderful bliss of sleep. So now we are going to continue. We are going to move on to the latest in the Middle East. More specifically, just the key takeaways. So, what are those key takeaways? Number 1, Hezbollah disarmament. The Lebanese armed forces' apparent hesitancy to disarm Hezbollah has increased international frustration and concern about a potential resumption of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Deputy U.S. Special Envoy arrived in Beirut on October 27th to meet with senior Lebanese officials, really in the hopes of preventing renewed fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Number 2, Israeli strikes in Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Forces continued its airstrike campaign across Lebanon to prevent Hezbollah reconstitutional efforts. The IDF has killed approximately 7 Hezbollah fighters and 1 Hezbollah-affiliated weapons smuggler since CTP's latest data cutoff, which was on October the 24th. Number 3, Iranian political faction and fighting. Iranian officials are concerned that divisions among Iranian political factions around foreign policy will destabilize the Iranian regime and present opportunities for exploitation by Iran's adversaries. Pragmatic hardliner and Iranian parliament speaker has called on all Iranian political factions to demonstrate national unity in a parliament session on October the 26th. And if you like more of that story, I have a video specifically that really kind of discusses the relationship between Iran and Iraq and sort of really Iran's learnings from the 12-day war and how they're hoping both politically and economically to put themselves in a better situation in the future, especially as it relates to communication and national unity. So check out that video. Number 4. Iraqi Shia political party divisions. Unspecified Shia coordination framework parties are reportedly attempting to receive political support from the United States ahead of the November 2025 Iraqi parliamentary elections, which reflects continued divisions within the coalition. Iraqi media reportedly on October 27th that unspecified Shia coordination framework parties are in a political rush to receive U.S. support before the elections on November 11th, 2025. So those are the key takeaways for the Middle East. Now let's move on to the very latest for China and Taiwan. It's now been 30 minutes that you have been listening. And you should be asleep by now. I've tried to make this informative but boring. So now we are going to move to the key takeaways. Again, for Asia. So what are the key takeaways? Number one, PLA purges. The CCCP General Secretary has expanded his military purges, expelling 9 of the senior-most generals from the CCP and referring them for criminal prosecution. Most recent purges appear to target a distinct human network and are part of Xi's continued effort to assert his personal control over the PLA. 2. Taiwanese military modernization. The Taiwanese EY approved a large investment in domestic drone production and the procurement to enhance Taiwanese defenses against PRC aggression. These moves reflect the Taiwanese commitment to integrating advanced technologies, such as drones, into its defensive concept. 3. Taiwanese resilience. The Taiwanese LY approved a special budget to support preparations to withstand a PLA blockade. The budget provides funds to stockpile fuel and other critical supplies, among other things. The LY passed the budget in a rare instance of tripartisan cooperation among the 3 major political parties. So what other news do we have to cover for this evening's sleep news update? Well, there really isn't much else right now because this video isn't focused on extreme breaking news. It's focused on providing enough technical information on cognitive warfare and the latest general updates with Russia and Ukraine, the Middle East, and China and Taiwan. My hope is by now you are very deep into sleep. And so now for the next 20 minutes we are going to have nothing but silence in the hope that you at this point will be able to get that much needed earned sleep. And as always, thank you for watching World Conflict Zone Sleep Edition Episode 1.